Diversity.
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 You probably know Diversity 101. Don't be hateful towards people based on their sexuality, gender, race, or ability. You might even think we've come to a point where our workplaces and culture and media is diverse. But many people still don't get to watch TV or films and see authentic stories that they can see themselves in. There's still a long way to go before representation is as realistic and diverse as our population. And an important way to try and get there is to really examine what we watch on TV and in cinemas. At the Radical Film Network's 2016 festival in Glasgow, academics, activists and filmmakers came together to discuss a variety of issues, including the representation of marginalised groups on screen. We talked to them about how we can all do better, whether we're in a position where we're benefiting from the oppression of marginalised groups, or we are unlearning internalised hatred towards our own identities.
Who has the right to tell these stories, and does a minority ethnic woman telling these stories makes it more authentic and legitimate?
There's no space for normality in the representation of disabled people, so you're either a villain or you're a superhero, and there's no place in the middle where you can meet. But I think that's a common problem. You always have to be the exception in representation, and that becomes like a feedback loop with life, because there isn't that space carved out in advance for people to occupy.
The flip side of that question is, should you only write the stories that are about who you are? And then that would be wrong as well, because actually the whole process of creating a world and creating characters requires research, and then that research is what gives you the insight into different cultures and people and ways of being and ways of doing things and all of that. So if you eliminate that process, then that understanding that we all have of each other slowly starts to diminish. So I think it's more a case of, can you get it right? But
generally, we're very much aware of the way that a lot of dominant representations of marginalized people treats them as others in various ways that are kind of threatening or makes you feel like you want to fix them, or there's ways, just different ways of making you feel that they're not like us, they're other people, and that they're over there. And we wanted to really not do that with this film, so we wanted people that are marginalized to speak from their own position and not be framed in that way.
I mean, now down in London, you've got the all-black cast, you've got the all-Asian cast, but what are we seeing in Scotland?
It's really transformative for me to say the concept of disability is there is no such thing as disabled person, it's only the environment which disables people. I feel that there's much more activism that can be done to sort of change that concept, that it really is environment. Because I work at a venue, if our venue isn't fully accessible, we are making people disabled, rather than that we have to cater for people that we think of as disabled, that it's not the issue with the person and how they've been born or things that happen to them. It is always the environment.
Everything is based on judging other people and how productive they are in an environment where you have more chances to be productive if you are male, if you are white, if you are rich, and so on and so forth. So you are judged by not being able to perform as you should in a society that only allows a particular kind of people to perform well. Is that your experience?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate, and I think it's also, it's basically the way that society is systemized. It kind of gives an advantage to people who don't have disabilities, who are women, who are not gay, so it's more than just prejudice, it's like the way the actual system has evolved and how we've evolved as kind of human beings, building our culture.
Oftentimes, other people are representing people who don't have access to self-representation, and so there's sort of a dynamic that happens there. And there also is a tendency to deal with people who have disabilities or who are marginalized in some way in a charity type of relationship, like, oh, we're going to give this to you, without recognizing the economics that people are disenfranchised and poor because of a capitalist system that doesn't deal with bodies that are different, with people who have disability or have injuries from colonial violence, and actually people profit off of that poverty. So we try to look at that more like a political relationship, and to recognize the importance of people representing themselves as agents rather than fostering a kind of patronizing relationship, which is what is typically done.
And maybe the idea of the self-representation and people giving people the access to be able to make films or create media about themselves, and a place to screen that and to distribute that is maybe the way forward.
Organisations need to start taking it upon themselves to think, if I have an opportunity, I have, I don't know, a short film commissioning scheme or something like that, it's not enough to say I have advertised in the usual places and people will just come. If you know that you need to hit targets, you need more people from minority ethnic communities, you need LGBT groups, you need disability boxes ticked and all of that, you need to go to those people and you need to encourage them to apply to these things. Because often it is also, it's not just about accessibility, but it's about confidence.